Pro Wrestling Junkies, welcome to our first episode, PWJ FIX, for your fix on wrestling around the States. I am your host, Jim Rogers, and I am here, and I am so excited. I've got goosebumps galore. We have been working on this, building this, and we're bringing to you the absolute best in independent wrestlers, their stories. And before I go on, before I run my mouth, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Every single one of you. Thank you. I am a father myself. This is your day. So enjoy this. First and foremost, I've got to introduce my co-host, the man who is the sole inheritor of the Oreo company, Andy O. Andy, come on down.
How's it going? I prefer the last Blockbuster, but thank you.
He owns Blockbuster Incorporated. Not really. He just has a lot of movies behind him, as you can see. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a guest. We've got a good guest today. I'm going to bring him on. This man has been on AEW Dark. He has been on AEW Elevation. And he just came back from Japan. He's from All Japan. He just came back from All Japan Pro Wrestling. Cyrus the Destroyer. Cyrus, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show, man. First of all, Cyrus, I want to thank you for coming on the show. You know, this is a long time coming. You know, we've been friends for a while. Hey, yep. Drew, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Cyrus, I guess my first question I'm going to ask you right out of the gate is, who trained you, man?
Man, I'm kind of the Hans 57 of wrestling and training. So it wasn't just one man that I could give credit to. It'd be many guys that I had to give credit to, like Big Wood Lumberjack, Skinny Kenny, Lord rest him, and just other guys like that. That's how I came into it. Jamie Kyle. There's just a lot of old school vets, big guys. So,
well, from what I understand about the wrestling business, you're always learning. You're always growing and everything. And you've made a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
I've definitely tried. Like, still in pursuit of it. So it's been fortunate.
You got to pursue it, man. You got to pursue it.
Definitely.
Well, a lot of people have said, that I've talked to, they have said that you're one of the most underrated wrestlers out there because you're one of the last big men. And, and quite frankly, you've been on AEW. You've been on, I don't know what part of AEW. Was it Dark or was it Elevation?
It was Dark. I was on. Yeah, and then Japan started getting more popular, and I started going overseas more and wrestling over there.
We're going to touch on that, but I've got, Andy, do you got a question for Cyrus?
Actually, I do. How would you say American wrestling compares to Japan Pro Wrestling? Like how do they differ in a way?
The styling, the style's different. You have a little bit what they call strong style over in Japan. Sometimes we're not selling as much as we typically do here in America.
Okay.
So that's kind of a basis of the strong style. Probably a little bit more stiffer in Japan. So because we want to make it pop.
Yeah. Now, when you do go over there, obviously, I know some people speak the language, like especially being in the wrestling world, is like, if you're someone in, from America who does not speak the language, do you guys have, people over there that are bilingual with American language that can help translate, helping you through, either where you have to go or, when speaking to, the natives over in Japan, and, especially if you don't know how to speak the language, you have like a translator or.
Sometimes you have a translator. Sometimes the whoever you're wrestling, sometimes they're bilingual and they know some. I made it a point as to myself to pick up on some Japanese where I could communicate.
Okay.
But most of the thing, and I'll tell everybody this, that's the great thing about wrestling. You could go over there and not speak one word to each other and put a match together and it go fine. Just because we're all trained in the same basis.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we know how to read each other. And that's a great thing. So yeah, it all boils down to ring knowledge and knowing, as long as you're trained, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a question, Cyrus. When are you going to get the new World Heavyweight Championship?
I don't know. If that comes in the future, that would be great. But whether I get it or not, I'm just going to enjoy it and have a blast doing what I'm doing.
So in other words, you're going to enjoy the journey.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's all about the journey.
All right. Now I got to ask you about Japan. Who was your toughest opponent over there?
That would be probably Kento Maehara. So I think I have yet to defeat him. So he always comes up with some clever way of getting me during the match. So I would say he's probably my toughest opponent, and I would probably argue that if you haven't watched him, watch him, because he's probably honestly one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, and top notch.
Andy, you look like you got a question.
Actually, yeah. How would you say? What's the best way to put this? When it comes to using, obviously in American wrestling with WWE, we tend to hear. We like weapons, things of that nature. I know obviously nowadays here it's limited, especially for what you can have on TV. How would you say that differs in Japan? I mean, is it more lenient as to objects, with the gore, or I know here they don't allow a lot of blood on TV and things of that nature anymore, due to certain TV speculations. But how would you say that differs from Japan?
Japan, it's still an all go deal. I was on one show. We were in Osaka, and they were having one of their famous death matches on one of those shows, and the ring was exploding. They had the exploding ring. They were going all out, and I just looked at them. I was like, "Yeah, you're all crazy."
That sounds fun and dangerous at the same time.
Exactly. So, and but it's got such a huge following in Japan. People love it. And then there's some people that don't love it, and if they don't like it, they won't watch that match, or they won't go to that certain show. It's kind of like here in America too. There's some people love hardcore, and that's all they love, the death matches and stuff. So they'll go to those shows, but some people don't like them, so they'll just go to a regular show and everything. But it's different strokes for different folks, as I say.
That seems to be the way it was back in the 90s too. When ECW was a really big calling, people loved it, and then some people considered it garbage wrestling. But it just depends on your style. I know a lot of that stuff is geared towards high flyers now and things of that nature, which is also still really cool. But when you add in weapons, it just makes it better. But I'm just
yeah. I mean, I've never trash talked hardcore wrestling. I tell everyone, that's something that it's an art form. Of course, it's not my style personally. I'll watch them because I can respect the style of matches that they're having and all, but at the end of the day, you know, I stay on my side of the railroad tracks. They stay on their side.
I mean, I respect that kind of art form too. I mean, there's a lot of different other, you know, companies out there. I don't know as much as Jim knows about like Japan and a lot of the smaller companies. One name I know sticks out. I think they're based out of New Jersey, I believe, is CZW, and they do a lot with the smaller high flyer guys incorporating into their weapon style. And like you said, art form. It's just how they can take a random object and just make, you know, a big pop out of, you know, just two small things and a guy, you know.
Yeah,
just
well, of course.
Well, Cyrus, we're going to do something right now. We're going to show a couple of clips that you sent me. And you know, we're going to get your comments about these clips. Okay?
Okay. All right.
ダイレクトに伝わってまいります。さあ、そして今度は
何を
高い。これまたエプロン、うわまさにモンスター開封。
Okay, I would not want to be on the receiving end of that power bomb.
Yeah, that ring right there is, I think it's right at like a 20 by 20, and there's not a whole lot of padding in those rings in Japan, and they actually with that apron spot, they love it. The crowd eats it up, and it's definitely a hard bump because there's no easy way of throwing it. Like I can't just lay you down; I have to throw you down to get that impact. So. Yeah, when he bounced like that, I got told, they were like, were you trying to drive him through the ring? And I was like, well, yeah, he told me to.
That goes into a good question before we roll this next clip. I know over in Japan, because I've watched several hours of Japanese wrestling, not just All Japan, New Japan. I've also watched Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, Wing, things of that nature. But one thing I've discovered is the Japanese wrestlers want you to really lay it in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, because they want it believable. That's why I had made mention to you that I have a library of Stan Hansen, you know, of his matches over in Japan. And God, the match that he had with Vader, where Vader's eyeball popped out, that was rough. I actually asked Vader about that, and he said that Stan Hansen is blind as a bat, and without his glasses, he can't gauge how hard he's hitting.
Yep.
And when he hit him so hard, he broke his orbital bone, and that's when his eye popped out.
Yeah.
Are you fans of the big men?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, I grew up watching the big men. I absolutely loved them. Like, you know, Taker. Me being a child, seeing Undertaker for the first time was freaking amazing. I think the biggest thing that got me into wrestling, I watched him and Yokozuna in a casket match, and when I saw that match, like, I was hooked, and I just started watching them all. So I started watching Bam Bam, then Vader, and I loved the big guys because they could all move. Their agility, they were so fast. And, you know, when you're over 300 pounds, like close to 400, and you can move quick like that, you know, that's saying something. That's a lot of meat.
Now, when you travel from show to show, and I might not be the only one, but does anybody ever like look at you and kind of like mistaking you for Ryback? Because you have that real, with the upper body build and the face, you kind of have that Ryback look to you.
Yeah, you know, that was funny. There was I was on a show in Texas during COVID. Well, COVID was kind of coming down. I got flown out to Texas to do a show, and there was some fans that thought I was Ryback when I first came out. And it actually went viral on TikTok. I think it got like almost it was over 500,000 views. I think it might have been close to 1 million. And everybody thought it was like the greatest thing in the world. And you know, I considered that a compliment on that part. I was just like, I'm a lot taller than Ryback. So
Yeah, and Ryback is a lot more beat up. But I'm going to put you. Cyrus. I'm going to put you on the spot here now. Okay.
okay.
American promoters versus Japanese promoters. Who pays better?
Oh, no comment.
I know because I can read. I can read you what. I can read you without. I know the answer. Let's put it that way. I already know the answer. Hey, I talked to. It was a couple of years ago. I talked to Bull Buchanan about his trips over there, and I asked him about it, and he told me. So you know, we'll just leave it at that.
Right.
But we've got one more clip that you sent us that I would like for you to go over. And,
Okay.
you know, this is the next clip.
どうしたサイラス。
頭振ってますね。頭打ちましたかね。
頭、そうですね、もう、飛んでるかもしれないですね。
そうですね。正面から行く。ブロックした。担ぎ上げた。うわー、どうだ。うわ、おっと、ブロックバスター。
That looks like it hurt.
Yeah, I love that move. I love that style of the Samoan drop. I just, it looks vicious, and you get tossed that high up in the air and caught on the shoulders and go down. That's a lot of fun. So
just to be able to lift them up and put them behind your head before you drop them says a lot.
Oh
right there.
Yeah. Well, he only weighs about like 245, so he wasn't too heavy. He was pretty light.
Now, how would you say like the locker room environment? How would you say that differs like in Japan from, you know, American wrestling? Is like, does everybody keep to themselves? Is everybody, you know, more uptight?
No, you know, in a lot of the locker rooms that I've been in, like America and Japan, it's basically the same. It's like one big unit. The way it all works together, and you know, you don't run into a lot of egos. And I've been on some indie shows in the States where I run into egos. Like people have the egos about themselves, and I've never been a big fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I tell everybody, this is a profession, not a hobby. And if you want to treat it as a hobby, that's fine, but respect the profession.
Mm-hmm.
And be a professional when you are there. But
so it's kind of like you know somebody's struggling, you kind of, you know, you guys help each other out, like, you know, you're professional, so if somebody needs help in a certain area, you try to cope with that, and so nobody's left behind. And I would like to say,
yeah, and you know, and that's what I do too. Like I hate it when people ask, when they come to the back and they're like, what'd you think of my match? And I hear other people say, oh man, it was great. That's not what they need to hear. They need to hear what they did wrong, what they need to improve on. Because we all have movesets that we know look good and we feel that are good, but there's things that we can always improve on. So when I go to the back, I don't go, hey, how did it look? I'm like, hey, did you see anything that I need to work on, that I need to tweak? Because in my mind, I feel like I needed to tweak on a lot of stuff. And then I'll go back and watch it. And as soon as I start watching my own stuff, I start saying, man, I should have done this. I should have done that. So, and that's the mindset. And that's the difference between a professional and an amateur, in my opinion. Or just like somebody just wants to do it for highlights. I'm like, no, you need to work on the art form of it.
Well, right now we're going to show your intro. I believe this was Southern Honor Wrestling, and this was you versus Judas. I want to make sure I said his name correctly. Judas. Okay.
Judas. Mm-hmm.
You versus Judas, and we're going to take a look at this.
has been gone for many months now, and he had an eye patch for several months. But I believe he's back to 100%. We're about to find out. Good Lord. Whoa. Oh, God. Look at the smile on Cyrus's face. He sees the casket and, apparently it's exciting. I don't know where he's going with it. Where is he going?
Now, I know those caskets are very heavy. And you're toting that thing around like it's just a small log.
Yeah.
I will say this, yes, thankfully for us, he dragged it over there. I'm kind of glad. Yeah, I am too, but given
this seems like it's going to be like almost a street brawl, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this was a last man standing match. So this was like a year in the making.
You're right. That's a great point. Think about that guy.
Well, I guess my question is, when y'all two started this match, did you lay it in hard?
Oh yeah, of course. Like he and I have a lot of the same style, so that's exactly why we did go. We wanted to definitely go hard with it and everything, so that was one of the big things to do it.
When you're wrestling with two rings like this, does this ever throw your your form off of like how you guys do things, or does it help you guys open up a bigger window of possibilities?
Two big bulls colliding.
We just stayed in one ring. I was like, I don't even need that other ring. So
There was no match because it all was taking place outside of the ring.
Because I know like with the younger or smaller guys, that would open up a lot more windows for high flying possibilities. You know, going.
it does. It does for the smaller guys. It definitely does. They're able to do a lot more and all that. But
Cyrus, that opens up an interesting question. How do you prepare for a match with a big man as compared to a medium-sized man or a smaller man?
well, you know, I find it easier, like big man versus big man. It can look good and it can be a good match as long as it's planned right. But like personally, I enjoy working the smaller guy because I like doing that whole David and Goliath, because you're taking two different styles of wrestling. Like I'm a brawler power guy, and then you give me a small guy that's a high flyer. Man, we can just make so much magic happen right there. Like there's so many endless possibilities. Whereas it's two big guys, that's one type of match that you're going to get. It's going to be nothing but hard hitting. Like, and that's going to be the style the whole time. Like both guys are just going to be going into each other and laying it in, as opposed to the other. We're doing a little more of a show and jumping off some stuff, and then every once in a while I'll show some like quick moves just to set it up. But that's the differences right there.
A good example of that nowadays. I mean, especially with WWE, they were actually doing that for a while with Ricochet and Braun Strowman. They paired them two together, and that was a pretty good combo because Ricochet is one of them little high flyers that he'll pull something out of the bag and you'll least expect it. It'll be almost something you've never seen before.
Exactly, element of surprise, and when you can get that going, that's what makes the matches right there. That makes them look beautiful.
And those little surprises to me is what I think keeps people coming back, because it's like, if you did that on the spot, what's in for next week? You know,
exactly.
One of those believer things that makes it look that much better.
Now, Cyrus, I'm gonna put you on the spot again. So just be ready. Okay, hypothetically, because I know, God knows, I'm 100 years old, so I can't do it. Hypothetically, if I was your opponent and I came to you before the match and said, look, I got a bone spur in my ankle, can you ease up on that? What is your process on that? Do you just stay away from an injury like that, a legit injury?
Well, it just depends. Like first thing. Okay.
Do you focus? In other words, do you focus on the injury in the ring, a legit injury, or do you say, okay, he said his right leg is hurt? Okay.
It just depends. It's either or. Like I worked a guy not too long ago. He told me he had bad ribs on his left side. So I was like, if you're okay with it, I'm going to work those, because everybody knew that he had bad ribs. So I was like, I'm going to work it, but I promise you, I'll take care of you. You just got to trust me. And that's where the trust factor comes in. So yeah, if you tell me that that's a body part that's bothering you, I'm going to work it. If you tell me that you're really scared of it, I might say you might not need to be doing the match then. You might need to actually do some R&R and let your body heal before you get out there and mess it up even worse. Because, that happens. Like, I tell everybody in wrestling, it's not if you get hurt, it's when it's going to happen. And at some point it comes to us all. We all get injured. and it's just...
The way you're describing that is almost like if anybody who's old school, like either Jim or me. I mean, I'm a '90s guy because I'm younger, but the way you're describing this stuff is almost if you've ever read any of Mick Foley's books, he describes that same aspect where he's like, he tells a guy, like, somebody will say, this isn't a good idea, and he says, no, I'm telling you, do it. It's going to make a good show. It's going to put us on the map. It's going to win somebody over. And that's what he did. He took all the bumps and he put his body on the line, even when people thought it wasn't going to be a good outcome, but the fans loved it.
Well, to that response, Foley did something magical with that Hell in the Cell match. I'm sure you've seen it, Cyrus.
Oh yeah.
That match, when he got backstage after that match, Vince came up to him and says, never again will you do that. Yeah. Because he thought he was legit hurt, which he was. He had bruised his kidneys. He had a tooth driven up into his nose, and he had gotten knocked out, I believe. Yeah,
he did. It was he was knocked out. He broke some ribs in that match. That man, I'm certain if he wouldn't have had a leash put on him to stop him, he would have probably died in the ring eventually.
He's one of the nicest guys you could meet too. I actually, about a year ago, if you can see my custom belt is behind the wall there, but I've got all 3 of his characters and himself signed that. I met him locally, and he's a nice guy.
Oh yeah.
Going out this was like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he's signing autographs, and I could tell he's a nice guy, but he just had that look on him like, I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah. He's like, I'm tired. My body's saying, hey, it's time to go.
And he's one of the guys that put Attitude Era on the map,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And, of course, Stone Cold. Who wouldn't want to drink beer and beat the
exactly? Yeah.
Now let's get into your AEW. I know you were there for a short time. How did AEW treat you?
They treated me well. Honestly, I can't say a bad thing about anywhere I've ever been. There's some places that I didn't agree with how they did business, so I just didn't go back. But AEW, they treated me just fine. The whole back room, everybody was really nice. And really cool with everyone.
Did you get any good advice from anybody while you were there?
Yeah, we're always talking, and I think Blade and I had a long conversation, and it was funny because apparently he knew Les Thatcher as well. He was real good friends with Les Thatcher, and I did a few seminars for Les Thatcher, and Les Thatcher has always seemed to like me a lot. So Les was like, hey, tell Blade I said hi, and tell him Les says hi and all that. And then we got to discussing wrestling, like old school wrestling, new school wrestling, and how some people are stuck in the old school way, and some people are only stuck in the new. And the neatest thing about that is if you could take just both and combine them, you can just have something amazing. So,
I met Les Thatcher, Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
Woody was putting on the show.
yeah,
There in the corner, I happened to be there with a friend of mine, and he was sitting there, and I saw him, and she goes, "Who is that?" I said, "That is Les Thatcher.
yeah,
That man could probably whoop anybody on this roster right now without even breaking a sweat. The guy is an absolute legend."
oh yeah, he's amazing. So
I went over and shook his hand. I said, "I just want to shake your hand because I know who you are, and I know you're a legend. Much respect."
yeah, one of the funniest stories is we were doing drills one time at one of his seminars, and he goes, they were doing a leapfrog one, and he told me, he was like, "Hey, you don't have to do the leapfrog." I was like, "No, I can do a leapfrog," and he's like, "No way." And then he watched me do a leapfrog with a guy, and he freaked out. Like, I popped him.
Yeah, you popped him. I've seen you pop me. I was sitting there. I'm like, "Oh my God, he actually did that."
So
And I want to say this, and I'm saying this to all promoters who happen to watch this: book this guy. You will not go wrong. I promise you that. This guy is an absolute beast in the ring. He will remind you of Bam Bam Bigelow. He will remind you of Vader. He may throw in a little bit of Stan Hansen in there with a sprinkle Brody. This guy right here is one you need to book on your card. I promise you that. Now back to what I was saying. When it comes to Japan, that's my executive producer being a nut. Throw him up there, Tony. That's Razor Stallone. And Stallone Code Steve Austin.
nice.
It's a joke we do on every podcast. This is just, yeah, that too. This right here is just a straight lace interview podcast.
Yeah.
Because we're Pro Wrestling Junkies Fix, and the thing about it is when I created Pro Wrestling Junkies, I wanted it to be a network for other wrestlers and other promoters so they can network on Facebook.
Yeah. Awesome.
See? Got your picture on there. I got that from Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now let me ask you about Japan, okay?
Okay.
Now, we went over the pay and everything, which you commented that. But I got to ask you, was there ever a communication problem? Ever? And did you get to see Mount Fuji while you were there?
There's one trip when we go to Osaka, I get to go past Mount Fuji every time. So, and there's a rest stop that area, so we always stop right there near it. So that's pretty cool. I haven't physically got to go and hike Mount Fuji yet, but I want to, of course. But I've got to see some other cool stuff. Like I've got to see the seventh tallest castle in Japan, Kauai. It's horrible with pronunciation. But I got to see that. I've got to see some beautiful sights, some beautiful springs. So I've got to see almost the whole country. So it's been amazing.
Now I got to ask you this, since you've been over Japan. I'm going to probably butcher this name, but have you gone to the Rikabon Steakhouse?
Oh, you're talking about
The famous steakhouse that all the wrestlers go to.
Roberta's. It's Roberta's.
Roberta's. I'm sorry
Roberta's.
if I butchered that. Have you been there?
I was there one time when I first originally went to Japan, like for my tryout and stuff. When I got picked to actually go, because the first time I had to foot my own way over there. I had to pay for my flight, which they provided, like my stay in the dojo and all that. But it was because it was a tryout, and I was only going to be there 2 weeks anyway. But I got to go during that time. I went the one time.
Okay. All right. Now, I know you were talking about Mount Fuji, and this is way off topic, but I've heard there is forbidden because it's paranormal. It's where people go to delete themselves.
You're talking about what, the Black Forest?
Yes.
Yeah. So I haven't never seen it. I've never been around that part. So it is. I consider it's their version of, it's like a sacred ground, and it's a different type of sacred ground. So, which I personally would never go there just out of respect, because you don't. It's kind of like walking in a graveyard. You don't walk over the grave, you walk around them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I've been wanting to ask you that because I know you went over there. Now, who was it? I think it was Brian Myers and Matt Cardona. I saw them. There was a video of them. There's a wrestling store over there, I believe. And, I've always wondered, if I ever got to Japan, that's one place I always wanted to go, because I know I'd spend a heck of a lot of money there.
Yeah, that's right near that's right near the Tokyo Dome. It's close, and then that's also near New Japan Pro Wrestling's headquarters too. Okay. So, in that store, my signature is on the wall going up the steps. So they get all the wrestlers to sign the wall. That's been there. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we've heard here lately about the passing of Antonio Inoki, and of course Baba died several years back and everything. Do you have any kind of connection to the Baba's family? Because I know they started All Japan as direct competitors for New Japan.
So I tell everybody that's another pretty cool story. The dojo that I stay at for All Japan is actually it was the great Baba's. It was one of his houses. That's the dojo now. So because I asked them like why the bathroom and the bathtub was so big, because I could actually fit in it, and they were like, "Oh, this was Great Baba's house." So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you were in contact with me the whole time you were in Japan.
Yeah.
And I know because of the time frame and everything, we couldn't do the interview because, when it was day over there, it was night here, and, I'm sure jet lag is a thing over there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's big. So I think it's what now over there, it's 5:42 a.m. the next day. So it's Monday morning over there right now.
Oh, good God. Man,
so,
oh man.
Yeah.
Now, I guess, Andy, you got any questions for him?
Yeah, I got another question. Let's switch the tables here a little bit. And your experiences, obviously, in the time that you've been wrestling as a professional, whether it be American wrestling or over in Japan or any other circuit, do you have a particular wrestler that you would not want to wrestle again, or you just can't work with because of their choreography, or you know what I mean, just how you guys can connect in the ring? Like, you have a wrestler that just can't work with?
No, I feel that you can find any of the any of those weak points, go back and twerk them and fix it. So that just takes practice. You just have to get with each other and stuff. And, you know, if it's on a personal level, at the end of the day, I'm still going to treat you like a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have any beef with you or anything like that, we'll handle it. We'll handle it away from the show.
After the match.
Yeah. No, you know, at the show, it's all going to be always strictly professional. And that's the difference, too, between professional and amateur.
Well, you know, being that I was in the business, but I wasn't in the business. I was, you know, editing, producing, you know, photography, things of that nature. I've got to ask now, because I was smarting up to the business, I've got to ask this one question. Have you had to give a receipt, or have you gotten a receipt?
I've always prided myself on being safe in the ring, so I've never done anything to get a receipt. Of course, there's been accidents where something messed up, but I didn't get mad about it either because I knew it was a mess up. And that's another thing too. That's another thing that you have to separate. Like, did he do this on purpose, or was it really an accident? And you can tell. And you know, it was, so far, like, knock on wood, I've never had to experience that. Mm-hmm. And getting back to that, like, I won't give this guy credit to his name, but he did do something pretty bad to me, and this was years back. And it was the way through the line. He aimed for my nose. He busted it, and I put him down real quick, and I said, "We'll handle this in the back after the match." And you know, and I think that scared him more than anything was me telling him that instead of reacting there in the ring in front of a crowd. Because one, I wasn't going to take a show away from paying customers, because they're there to watch wrestling and they've spent their money when they could have went to the movies or something like that. So I told him, I was like, we'll just deal with this when we go in the back.
You kind of rolled it in to make it look like it was part of the event, and then
exactly
after the cameras are off, and
exactly then I handled the business.
Now, have you had anybody in your experience? I mean, I know you guys are trained. I mean, accidents do happen. We hear it with everybody. Have you ever, with anybody that's come across with you in a match, have you accidentally, or from just how another, you know, wrestler maybe told you that I want to take a hit, this and that, have you had anybody ever get seriously injured while working with anybody in your matches, other than maybe yourself, but like as far as your opponent?
I had a guy like I do a running senton, and usually I miss it. And everybody knows, like, when I do the running senton, you always roll in versus rolling out. Mm-hmm. Well, he rolled the exact same way I jumped, and there's no covering that. So you're getting all my weight down on you at once. So as soon as it hit, he fractured some ribs from it. And, you know, I felt horrible for it, and he even told me, though, he was like, "No, that was my fault." He goes, "I knew not to roll that way, but I did it anyway." He was like, "I wasn't thinking." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "And that's what got me." And I was like, okay. So, but that was, luckily, knock on wood, that was the only incident there. And I've had some incidents with, like, smaller guys where we've practiced a jump before, and then in the ring they go to do the jump and they're coming up short. And, you know, thank God I've been able to run up and catch them and make it look like part of the show and get them back up. And so that's another thing that people like about me, is how safe I am about it, about putting on a show. Because I tell everyone, I want to make it look like I'm going to kill you, or like I'm killing you. So that's what gets the mind going. So,
well, okay, let me ask you this question, okay?
Okay.
Brock Lesnar handed a receipt to Braun Strowman.
Yep.
In the ring, and you could hear him say, and I'm not going to quote it because we may have children watching, "Calm the F down." and
Yeah.
he knocked him for a loop.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Braun Strowman deserved every bit of it.
do you honestly do you think that it should have been handled in the ring right there on the spot, or is it a judgment call as a professional wrestler?
I think it's a judgment call, and I think in that part particularly that had been building up, and Brock had finally been like, "Hey, we got a show to do, so I'm going to knock some sense into him real quick, and then we're going to go on with the match and get it finished." So yeah, and and that's on everybody's mind. Like someone might think something else is right completely than what I think's right on receipts given and handling business a certain way. But I would say Brock deserved to give it to him every bit of it to him on that. So I'm a huge Brock Lesnar fan, by the way. Anyway, so
well, I kind of figured you were a Brock Lesnar fan because the guy's an absolute beast. I mean, I've seen him in UFC. Of course, I've seen him when he first came up. I watched some of his matches from Ohio Valley Wrestling. The guy is, well, actually, the guy is probably close to retirement now because he makes like $1 million per match that he shows up to.
Oh yeah, he's big deal.
And it's amazing how a guy like that can perform, because I've read a few different articles where he's not a people person. He doesn't like being around people. He doesn't like confronting people. He's like one of those guys that comes to the show and then it's like goes back home and he stays in his
he's an introvert
house, and it just makes you wonder, like, you don't like people, but you're able to perform in front of that many fans all in one arena.
He's a big introvert, man. He's an introvert, and then he just breaks that out, and then he's ready to go home and look over his land and be with the cows or whatever.
Now, I have actually heard that if it's like one or two people who happen to come up to him and say, "I really enjoyed your match. Can I get an autograph? Or can I get a picture with you?" or something like that. He seems like he's cool, but if he has like 20 people, he freaks out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's more receptive to women and children, of course.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I've told several people who tend to go to the airport to meet these wrestlers that don't run up to them and just to get a picture snapped with them. You say, "Hello, my name is so and so. I saw your match. I really like what you do in the ring. Is it all right if I get a possible autograph or a picture with you, and I won't disturb you anymore?" Because some of these wrestlers get jet lagged. Mm-hmm. Some of these wrestlers, like yourself, have to travel from Japan and come back, and you do not want to deal with anybody. You want to go home. It's basically the thing. Now, I guess, because you seemed cool when I saw you in IHOP, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where I saw you in IHOP, and I was like, "Dang, man, there he is." And at first, I was reluctant to go over to talk to you because you were there with your wife.
Right.
And, I didn't want to disturb you. I just wanted to, and I wasn't going to say, "Hey, can I have your autograph or a picture with you?" All I wanted to do is just introduce myself and tell you who I was, tell you, that I've seen you wrestle several times. My son's seen you wrestle, and I would love to have you on the show. That's before we got this show right here.
Yeah.
And this show is, we're being as professional as possible. But I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to thank you for being as nice, because some wrestlers will say, "Go away, kid, you bother me," or whatever.
Yeah.
it's one of those things you kind of like. I think you get a balance of too, especially like when you run into so many people, when you get, become such a big name like WWE and AEW. Like you kind of know the difference between like a young kid who's just really into it that wants an autograph, and let's just say a guy with who's a scalper who just wants a bunch of autographs to sell. There was actually a video
Exactly.
Not too long ago of Rey Mysterio getting off a plane, and this kid was sitting here with a cardboard board with like 6 or 8 figures on it, asking him to sign a bunch of like pop figures, and he's like, I can't do that without WWE. He goes, I'll sign one of them, but he goes, I can't do all of that. And he knew the guy was a scalper. He just wanted his autograph to turn around and put him online,
And you get a lot of that. Yeah, that's what's crazy about it. You have to be careful with that in Japan too, because I'll get people that want me. They got autograph boards, and they'll want me to sign like 10 of them, and I'm like, and I tell them, you get one. I'm like, you don't get 10. Like, because one, I'm not charging you for it. Like, I'm doing it out of the kindness of my heart. But and if it's explained to me with some, like there's some they want restaurants, like they want me to do an autograph for the restaurant or something like that. And at that time, then I'm like, well, give me the name that it's going to, and I'm gonna make it out directly to them. So that way you don't have that going on, the whole scalping thing.
And sometimes it turns off wrestlers, because when they see a lot of that, and then when you get the one guy, like for example, like I told you, I had Mick Foley's autograph. I was a big fan growing up, so I'm like, I asked him at the signing, we paid for a signing. We went to his little show that he does and travels with now. And I just said, hey, instead of giving me a picture, would you mind just signing all 3 of your characters on my prop that I was able to bring to the show? And he goes, oh yeah, no problem. Because I was just such a big fan, and that belt was dedicated and made for his, character, because I liked it so much, and he was totally cool with it. He even took his phone out and snapped a picture of it. So that was really cool. And, because I'm a big fan, I wanted it for a collection, not to just be like, oh, hey, is it $1,000 now? Because I just got 3 signatures,
Oh, exactly. And he knew that. Like, wrestlers can read people. Like, you can always read the ones that are they going in it for the money, or are they genuinely, like, do they really want the autograph and stuff? So, that's kind of the way the world works. And, I pride myself with that too. Like, it's funny, like, when I'm selling gimmicks, there's certain things that happen where sometimes a kid will get a free t-shirt from me, or somebody will get a free t-shirt from me because I could tell how bad they want it. But then too, I consider it an honor, knowing that they spent like all their free money they had just to come watch the show, and they would love some type of memorabilia or something. Just and that makes somebody's day when you do stuff like that. Just being kind,
especially with the less fortunate, or if you see a kid, you can tell that like you said, they spent what they had, or they spent what they could afford to get to the show, but they couldn't afford anything to bring back.
Yep. And at that time when you see that, it's like, well, I want to take care of that kid.
And hopefully one day he'll pay it forward. He'll remember it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a big believer in paying it forward. I tell everyone. So anytime I do something for someone and they're like, oh, let me give you this or this, I'm like, no, you just help someone else down the road, and don't charge them nothing.
Well, okay, I gotta ask you, Cyrus, when it comes to Japan, who have you met over there that you just had that wow factor of?
I think the coolest thing ever that I originally got to do with Sonny Ono after I did like my first tryout, it was probably Muda came to the States, and I was Muda's private security while he was here in the States. And then when I went to Japan, I worked for Muda's promotion. So getting to hang out in the back with Great Muda and Cork and Hall was probably, so it was so amazing.
What is the name of his promotion? Is it still ongoing?
No, it's not ongoing anymore. He was doing a promotion called Wrestle One, and that's how originally I got into wrestling, because Kaz Hayashi and Sonny Ono had a tryout in the States, and Muda was in partnership with them at the time, but other business ventures came up. COVID really shut down a lot of businesses at that time once that hit too. So it kind of just took it out.
Well, an old friend of mine, I don't know if he's a wrestler anymore, but he went by the name of Jimmy Wang Yang.
Yeah, I know Jimmy.
Yeah, he's from Austell, Georgia. I grew up in Mableton. He grew up in Austell. He went to South Cobb. I went to Pebblebrook. Go Falcons. But yeah, he was as cool as a cucumber, and he was really cool. Would answer the questions and stuff. Knew people like DDP, the Nitro Girls and stuff. And
I think he was in another group before he became Jimmy Wang Yang in WWE, if I'm not mistaken.
He was the young. He was a part of 3 people, the Young Dragons. You had mentioned Kaz Hayashi, who was one of them. I want to say Jamie Noble was another one, and it was Jimmy Yang that was also there. I think Jimmy moved up to Cincinnati and is now doing tours on his tour bus. But you had mentioned Kaz Hayashi, and I remembered that Jimmy Yang worked with Kaz when he was in WCW.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Now let me ask you a couple. This question: if you had your dream match, what match would you want to be a part of, and who would be your opponent, and what would be the finish?
Man. I guess. Golly. Really trying to think. I guess it would be Vader and I going 1-on-1 and trading moonsaults.
Ooh, man. But what would be the finish?
Till the last moonsault does it. Who can survive the most moonsaults? So,
because I actually saw Vader break Sting's ribs in the Omni, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to happen before it happened because he was laying on his side and Vader came off and hit him right in the ribs.
Mm.
And he knew he was in trouble and the ref knew he was in trouble because he threw the X up.
Yep.
Now, do you? I know you watch some wrestling. I'm sure. Now, I guess my next question would be, what do you watch? Do you watch the territory days? Do you watch the recent stuff? You know, do you? What exactly do you watch when it comes to wrestling?
I watch some of the recent stuff, but then like I go back in the day, like Smoky Mountain Championship Wrestling, stuff like that. Like, you know, before Taker was Taker, and before Kane was Kane. You know, he was the dentist.
Right. Kind of more like when like the physical wrestling mattered before the personas came in play, or before lighting and effects.
Yeah, and you go there and look at Abby and Bruiser Brody going at it. Like that was some great stuff.
My God. Brody and Abdullah, I have a story about that because they were in the Cobb County Civic Center, and you know, Brody and Abdullah, they never do a match in the ring. They do it outside the ring, in the crowd, you know, maybe even the restroom. I don't know. But I literally was there with my father, Happy Father's Day, Dad, and my uncle, and They were coming our way, fighting. We were running up the steps, and I was behind my dad saying, "Move, move, move." And you're talking about a 50-year-old man running up the steps. I'm going as fast as I can. I said, yeah, well, they're right behind me, and if they roll over me, they're coming right after you. And my mom and my aunt, who, shout out to my aunt who's probably watching this. My aunt is one of the biggest fans and Nerdcast and Pro Wrestling Junkies' favorite aunt. She is, her and my mom had already gone up the stairs, and if you know where the Cobb County Civic Center is, that walkway right there, right before you go, if you come in the Civic Center, you go past the steps, and there's a walkway, a bridge like that. A lot of the disabled people would sit and watch it. They were waiting there. And we were running for our lives because I know Brody and I know Abdullah, they didn't pull no punches. They like hitting hard, and I did not want to be one of them that got hit hard.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I have one more question here probably before, I know we're hitting our 1 hour mark, but for any of the young viewers running or watching, as far as like the physical aspect goes, do you have any tips as far as becoming like a brawler / bodybuilder like yourself? I mean, obviously, to have the upper body strength like that didn't happen overnight. So,
Right.
Do you have any like tips for any of the younger viewers that might be watching? Is coming up in the bodylifting world or weightlifting world?
Yeah, I tell everybody just stay patient. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 6 weeks. It doesn't happen in 6 months. It takes a year before you see a true transformation. And then after that, you just got to keep working at it and always keep improving on it. So as long as you keep that in your mindset, that's the big thing, because when we first get into it, we want to see results right away. Like, we hit the gym one time, and it's like, man, I should be able to look in the mirror and tell something. It doesn't work that way. And, sometimes people can get discouraged by that. And find what's right for you. Like, necessarily, like, what I do when I'm doing powerlifting and doing my weights, my style, might not necessarily be what goes for that guy. So, I mean, follow advice of people and being safe, but find what's right for you. Your body will let you know exactly what you can and cannot do, and what feels good and what doesn't. So that would be the biggest piece of advice.
Kids, you better write that down. That's some vital information right there.
Now, since it's Father's Day, I've got to ask this question. Okay? If your child came to you and says, I want to be a professional wrestler, what is your answer and why?
It's kind of mixed feelings because I know what a hard road it's been and how long it's been and everything that I had to sacrifice to get where I'm at now. But if their heart was truly in it, then, I'd give them a shot and be like, let's give it a chance. See if you like it. Because, when I got into wrestling, the guy that first brought me in, he said, we're going to bring you in and we're going to bump you for probably 2 weeks straight. Nothing but bumps. And if you're still into it, we'll go from there and get into more of wrestling. And I ain't going to lie, that first week was painful as all get out, because you have 5 sets of bumps that you do, and you would do 20 of them each. And then you would do what they call blow-up drills. And then at the end of the night, you would do another 20 each. So you were doing 200 bumps 3 times a week. That was 1,200 bumps in 2 weeks. So, yeah, and that's how they weeded guys out. That's how they were like, if he's really into it, he'll show up. If he's not, he'll be like, it ain't for me. And we've had a lot of guys. I've seen a lot of guys say, hey, it ain't for me what I thought it was going to be. So, and they just have to understand that. Like, I would tell my kid, like, you know, you're not going to make a name for yourself overnight, and there's going to be some times where you're like, man, I think I'm really done, and then you're going to get that passion and no.
Well, you know, I've been told that the reason you bump so much is so your body can get used to it.
It's learning how to fall. That's the big thing. It's learning how to fall. If you talk to some of the old veterans, they'll tell you, "No, it's because we were putting a callus under your skin to make you stronger." I tell everybody it's learning how to fall, and it's to see if you're really going to be dedicated. Because what's the point of it if I show you just a few bumps and then I start showing you wrestling and then you quit on me, or you leave and say, "Oh yeah, I'm trained by so and so, so put me on this show." Well, then that's your name on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I give all the credit to the world to all the trainers out there, because you know I've had people ask me to train them. I just can't do it. Like I'm like, I can show you some stuff, but I'm not going to train you because I don't see myself as a trainer.
Well, Cyrus, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Oh yeah,
I really appreciate it. You're always welcome on. You know, if you want to come on and, you know, let us know what you're doing. You know, promoters, you know, book this man. You will not go wrong about booking him. This man is absolutely one of the best big men in the business right now, and we need to bring light to these indie promotions and bring them up so we can create stars. Cyrus, I want to thank you again. You know, contact me whenever you can come by. Let me know, and I can get that stuff ready for you.
I'd also like to add one more thing to everybody. Happy Father's Day if you are a father, if you have kids. I also want to give a shout out to PTM. They're one of our next biggest fans. They've helped us a lot get to where we are. Just a shout out to the guys over in the crew at PTM. If you haven't checked them out, check them out on YouTube. They usually do, I believe, a show on Thursdays. But I just want to thank them. They've helped us a lot along the way, give us some pointers, and we're always grateful for any help that we can get along the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us today for this our first episode of PWJ FIX. And before anybody says anything, no, it's not drug related. It's your fix on professional wrestling.